NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play. What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bring your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. All right. So the last 5 games for the Nets didn't really go exactly the way I was hoping for. The Nets went 1-4. I was hoping they'd go at least 2-3, but that didn't happen. Their only win came against a shorthanded Celtics team, which Kyrie Irving and Al Horford did not play in. A game that the Nets had to win, and they did win. But overall, they went 1-4 and are currently 39-40. Currently tied with the Magic right now for the 7th seed, though they have the tiebreaker with them. The Heat are right there, half game behind. The Nets are only a half game behind the Pistons. We all know the story, all right? The Nets are right there. 6 through 9 are all about within a game of each other with 3 games to go. But the Nets are in a good situation to make the playoffs. As long as they execute and win down the stretch. They have the tiebreaker against the Magic. I believe they have the tiebreaker with the Pistons. I don't really remember. Or is it the Heat? I think the Heat are the only team that don't have the tiebreaker. That last game of the year against the Heat will determine who's going to have the tiebreaker. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and look into it. Maybe if anybody else knows something that I don't know, they can comment below and say, no, NetsBoy, this is what the tiebreaker situation is. But either way, the Nets are in a decent situation for where they are. And I mean, 39-40, if you were going to, this is the classic cliche saying, but if you were going to tell me at the beginning of the year that with 3 games to go, the Nets would be 39-40 and have a chance of making the playoffs, I would have signed up for that every time. Because the way the team was looked at the beginning of the year, and they looked good, and then after that 8-18 start, everything just looked bad. I would have bought this immediately, every time, and I'm sure most of you would have as well. But I guess the thing that's frustrating is that, the expectations have kind of raised a little bit. I really thought that the Nets were capable of winning 44 to 45 games. I'll say 42 to 45 games when they were on a roll like they were. But then they kind of came back down to earth, and a lot of it has to do with a couple things, and I'll go into that in a second. But first, let's look at the last 5 games for the Nets, starting with the double overtime loss against the Blazers. That game, I almost did an episode immediately on because there's something I really want to point out in that game. That was the game that Jared Allen and Ed Davis both fouled out. It was also the game that Nurkic had that terrible leg injury. We don't really want to harp on that. That was absolutely terrible, but it's not the point. But that was the game that Jared Allen and Ed Davis both fouled out. Cantor comes in, all this stuff. The Nets have always struggled against good big men. We've seen it from day one. And it also was followed up the next game, the 76ers game with Joel Embiid, the game in which I went to, which I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But the thing that's so frustrating is Jared Allen is still a young kid. He's still skinny. He's not that strong. He gets beat up on the boards all the time. Ed Davis is kind of strong, but he's not really a true center, to be honest. He's more of a power forward converted center because he's very good at getting rebounds, but even he can get out-muscled. But what drives me nuts is, I don't know if you remember, when the Nets let go of Kenneth Faried, I said what concerns me about this team is their lack of center depth. I said if Jared Allen or Ed Davis gets hurt or gets in foul trouble, they've got no one else who can be the center. And that's exactly what happened in that Trailblazers game. Okay? Allen fouls out. Ed Davis fouls out. The Nets are left with playing Jared Dudley at the center spot. Why not Rondae Hollis-Jefferson? I'm not sure. Maybe because he didn't play all game. But Dudley was your center. And I had said this before. I said the one thing I don't like about this lineup, and of course we did see Rondae Hollis-Jefferson play the center spot against the 76ers when Kenny Atkinson benched Jared Allen. But still, once again, so you know what? I'll even talk about that game too. First and foremost, 76er fans, I don't want to talk anything negative about them because they're very passionate and they're very passionate fans. Don't get me wrong. But I'll tell you this. they're overly enthusiastic. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked, but it's all relative. The game I went to when the 76ers, Nets game, Nets were played like crap. Joel Embiid had 39 points, 13 rebounds, dominated. Jared Allen got benched. But I mean, like, these 76er fans get super excited for things that, like, should be automatic. Like, if J.J. Redick makes an open three, my response is, like, the same would be if Joe Harris made an open three, like, automatic. Like, if Joe Harris makes an open three, I'll just say, automatic. That's Joe being Joe, right? That's what I would say. I want to be like, all right, let's go! I'll be like, are you serious? It's J.J. Redick making an open three. I expect him to make that. You know, you know what I mean? It's the first quarter. Like, you know what I mean? It's the first quarter. And maybe that you're just super passionate fans. Maybe I'm just not that passionate. I guess it's because I have realistic expectations of my teams. I don't know. Maybe. I like to think I'm pretty passionate considering the fact that I've been doing these NetsBoy videos for over 3 years now, in which a maximum of like 50 people see. So don't call me passionate. I'm just not going to jump up and down and scream at the top of my lungs when someone like Joe Harris makes an open three for like this first basket made of the game. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I get it. Root your fans, go crazy. 76ers fans are passionate. All Philly fans seem to be very passionate. I go crazy. I was just very blown away of how excited. Like, Joel Embiid gets an uncontested dunk. Nothing's fast. Seeing this, like, all right! That's amazing! And I'm just like, bros, people. It's like 7-5. Like, just good job. Like, that's what I do. I don't know. But anyway, still very nice fans, though. I made a couple friends with a couple fans in the area. A lot of them were asking me a lot of questions because I was like one of the few Net fans in the stadium, and they were very nice. They were asking me questions, mostly of what's going on with your bigs, because that was the game that Jared Allen got benched. And once again, going back to that now, that is the problem that I said. They have no center depth. They resort to Jared Dudley or Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. And what gets me frustrated is they had Kenneth Faried, and I get it. Kenny Atkinson told Kenneth Faried, if injuries come or foul trouble, you'll play. But Faried wasn't happy about that. That's why they released him. But what gets me even angrier besides Kenneth Faried is, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but the Nets did make a trade at the trade deadline when they traded money for Greg Monroe and a second-round draft pick. So you had Greg Monroe on the team. And the Nets go, well, we don't want to get rid of one of our G League players, our Theo Pinstons, our Alan Williams guy, our Mitch Creeks, who they ended up letting go anyway. We don't want to get rid of those guys and this and that. And, we really like our team. Let's get rid of Greg Monroe. We don't need him. Do you know how useful Greg Monroe could have been to the Nets this year? Having another big body center who can body up these guys, these centers who've been dominating them, who can give them the front court center help when Jared Allen and Ed Davis gets in foul trouble. If they had Greg Monroe or Kenneth Faried, I think they would have beaten the Trailblazers in that overtime game because they would have had the size. If they had these bodies, they wouldn't have to go to Hollis-Jefferson when Kenny Atkinson decides to bench Jared Allen. They could have played him against the 76ers, and that would have made a huge difference. Greg Monroe is no slouch. I know he's been out of rotations because he doesn't fit the modern-day big, which is, athleticism and shoot threes, but he's still a big body. He's still a guy who, if the Nets needed to, you could play him 10 to 15 minutes a game. He'll give you about 5 rebounds, some interior presence, and somebody to body up these bigs. I mean, and they just let him go. They traded for him. You still had to pay him. It wasn't like by releasing him, they weren't going to have to pay him any money. They had him they have Greg Monroe's contract on the books for the rest of the year. They did it for the draft pick. What was the harm of keeping him? I don't get it. Maybe somebody knows something I don't know. But why? Why did they let him go? And I said this when it happened. I said, the Nets could really use this guy. They really could. But Nets let him go. And once again, the lack of front court depth by this team, center depth, showed its ugly head in the Trailblazers game, showed its ugly head in the 76ers game, and showed its ugly head throughout the whole season when the Nets gotten beaten up by these centers. And it's just very frustrating to watch. But overall, like I said, those 2 games were frustrating. good. Like I said, the win against the Celtics was good. The Bucks game, how poetic was it that Brook Lopez made some big plays down the stretch to beat the Nets? Once again, I was at that game as well. I was 0 for 2. I'm 1 for 3 at games this year. I went to the Hawks game, the Nets won that one, but then I lost the 76ers game and then the Bucks game. So I'm 1 and 2, excuse me. I'm 1 for 3. But either way, I mean, Brook Lopez made plays down the stretch, the Nets, and that was a terrible game by D'Angelo Russell. I mean, and then the Raptors game, same thing, Nets in it the whole way. D'Angelo Russell comes alive in the fourth quarter just to giveth and taketh away. Let me say something about D'Angelo Russell. See, I'm going on a lot of rants. I got a lot of stuff to vent real fast. D'Angelo Russell is clearly a star. Not a superstar, just a star, an all-star. The best player on the Nets. My biggest problem with D'Angelo Russell is once he starts making shots, he starts thinking he's, I don't want to say anything too wrong, but he just thinks like he's like the greatest player in the world. Let me put it this way. He thinks he's Kevin Durant. He thinks he's LeBron James. He thinks he's Steph Curry. He thinks he's James Harden. He thinks he's Russell Westbrook. He thinks he's Paul George. All right? He thinks that he is God's gift to the world for the Nets once he starts making a couple shots. And he starts making, like, did anyone else see that 3 that he took in the corner after he made 2 in a row in that fourth quarter with like 3 minutes to go that hit the side of the backboard? That is just dumb. That is just dumb. What are you doing? And then he turns the ball over. And again, he always turns the ball. He's starting to be a little bit like Darren Williams. He's like a better version of Darren Williams. Darren Williams would play great back when he first came to the Nets, would play great the whole game, then down the stretch, take dumb shots and turn the ball over. And that's what I'm starting to see from D'Angelo Russell. Yes, he's not nearly as bad. And I don't want any Net fans to be like, that's terrible, NetsBoy. Don't compare him to Darren Williams. No, he's not. Because he occasionally makes big plays and has made some big shots and game winners for the Nets. So I'm not trying to say that. But I'm saying in a similar idea that he starts trying to do too much. And that is what Russell still needs to understand. Stop doing too much. Relax. Good. You made 2 threes in a row, 3 threes in a row. Don't take a fadeaway contested 3 in the corner to hit the side of the backboard. Terrible execution. That's the definition of letting the game come to you. And that's the most frustrating thing. He tries to do too much. And once he started making shots, I said the Nets are losing this game because D'Angelo Russell is going to try to take over and he's going to fail miserably because when he does too much, he plays poorly. Simple as that. He's got to let the game come to him, and that's the next step of him. So, and it's frustrating because he is the best player on the Nets. He has the highest skill set. But one of the things that we're seeing, and I think I alluded to this earlier on in the video, is that we just have yet to see LeVert, Dinwiddie, and Russell all playing well in one game. You notice that even when the Nets went on that great stretch, that was when Russell was taking, not that he's taking a back seat, but he wasn't as much of a focal point. If you remember, towards the end of games, Kenny Atkinson was actually benching D'Angelo Russell when it was Dinwiddie and LeVert out there, when the Nets went through their greatest stretch. And it's unfortunate to say, but I don't know if the 3 of them can play together because they're both all 3 of them are ball-dominant playmakers. 2 of them work, and we've seen it. Remember, the best stretch of games, Russell was averaging only about 14 to 16 points a game, occasionally got benched. And when Dinwiddie and LeVert played well. Then when LeVert went down, Dinwiddie and Russell played well together. Then Dinwiddie went down, LeVert comes back, and then Russell and LeVert played well. And mostly Russell was taking over. Now all 3 of them are back, and now it's kind of like what's going on? Which is why Kenny Atkinson does not start all 3 of them. It's why he has both Dinwiddie and LeVert coming off the bench because Russell was so much more of a ball-dominant player. And it's very frustrating. And you know what? You want to know something? I'm being very honest here. It might be in the Nets' best interest to trade one of the 3. And I don't know who, because each one of those guys have their own pros and cons. And each one of them, I really like all 3 of them. And I would love all 3 of them to stay. Obviously, D'Angelo Russell's the free agent. Dinwiddie's the guy who just signed the extension, and then LeVert's still on a rookie contract. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying the Nets should trade one of the 3, but I'm thinking it could be a possibility because we have not seen all 3 of them play well together. If all 3 of them can figure out how to play together, because remember this happened last year. Everyone said Russell and Dinwiddie can't play together. Then they figured it out, and they played really well for a while. If all three of them can figure out how to play together, if Kenny Atkinson can piece together this team with all three of them playing well, this Nets team can be very good. Because, like I said, we have yet to see all three of them play well at once. We've seen Dinwiddie and Russell play well. We've seen, most recently, it's been Russell and LeVert play well. Dinwiddie's been kind of in the back burner. We've seen Dinwiddie and LeVert. We've never seen all three. And that's the key to this Nets team moving forward. All right, let's wrap up this video now. I'm done with my ranting about 76ers fans and D'Angelo Russell and the Nets not having a big and all that stuff. And let's look at the last 3 games of the regular season, starting with a very, very tough game against the Bucks this Saturday in Milwaukee. The only thing that goes in the favor for the Nets in that game is the fact that Milwaukee's might be resting players because they basically have clinched the best record in the East. I think their number to clinch is 1. I think they're still 2 games up on the Raptors. Hold on a second. Give me a brief second. I got the standings right here on my phone, and I just lost the standings. Oh, there we go. Yeah. The magic number is 1 game for the Bucks to clinch home court in the Eastern Conference. So maybe they're not really going to play very hard, and maybe they'll rest some players. Maybe, Giannis will get a rest, or Lopez will get a rest, or whatever. Bucks are pretty banged up too, so maybe the Nets can steal that game. Then they got must-win games against the Pacers, and the biggest must-win against the Heat. Pacers are battling out with the Celtics for that 4 seed. They're currently tied. So the Pacers got something to play for there. But at the same time, that's a little bit more of a winnable game than the Bucks. And then finally that Heat game, they've got to beat the Heat. Hopefully, I'm hoping the Nets go into that game not having to win. But if they have to win, they've got to beat the Heat. Hopefully the Heat are eliminated by then. I mean, it's going to be very tough to tell. The Heat are currently the 9 seed, like half game behind the Magic. So much could happen. Point is, of these next 3 games, the Nets need to win 2 of the next 3. If they can steal one of those games on the road against the Bucks or the Pacers and beat the Heat, they'll win 41 games. They'll be 41-41, and that should get them in the playoffs. I feel pretty confident about that. Anything less than that, I'd be nervous. But they've got to win at least 1 to have a chance. And if they lose out, I'd be very, very nervous because I don't think they're making the playoffs if they lose out. I'm being honest. So if you're the Nets, the key, though, is to go 2-1 the next 3 games, go 41-41. If you do that, I believe the Nets should make the playoffs, and that probably should get them either the 7th or 8th seed, maybe the 6th. I don't know. Who the heck knows? It's a 4-team race there. I'm kind of saying the Hornets are out of it, even though they're not mathematically eliminated. The Hornets would need to win out, and teams would need to lose out. But it's really a 4-team race for 3 spots. Nets, just don't be the odd team out, okay? All right, long video. We're going on over almost 19 minutes now. Let's wrap this up. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree with half the things I said today. There was a lot of things I said. Let me know if you agree with the Greg Monroe thing, with the D'Angelo Russell and 76er fans, all that stuff. Keep your eyes open for the next NetsBoy episode. My next episode will probably be my end of the season wrap up, it will be my end of the season wrap up, which means I'm either going to be super happy and have positive vibes because the Nets are going to be going into a playoff series, or we'll be super pissed because the Nets lost and ended up not making the playoffs, and after everything, it would be a disaster. So keep your eyes open for that. So until then, this is NetsBoy, signing off.